I will start with Mr. Fiza. Asking Fiza to please just give us a summary of the traffic management plan ahead of the Orlando Pirates versus Mamelodi Sundowns fixture.
Thank you so much to Tandi. Take the opportunity to greet you, the staff of Orlando Pirates, Mr. Obla, and the media present. With the traffic management plan, we had to look into the magnitude of the game. It is a big game, and we are expecting traffic disruptions around the FNB Stadium precinct and surroundings. And with that, there's a lot of deliberations that we had to get into regarding the traffic management and looking at the previous game and the dynamics of having a night match, which is midweek, excuse me, thinking of people coming into the stadium for one, but secondly as well, residents within the community who are coming back from work, and it is during peak hour periods. And with that, we had to tweak for the ingress, which is traffic coming in into the stadium before the game. And with that, usually we'd have road closures during 3 o'clock or even earlier. But with that, considering people coming back from home and the peak hour traffic, we have shifted the road closures to 1800, which is 6 p.m. And this then gives ample time for spectators to come to the stadium as early as possible before 6 o'clock. The gates open at 3:30, so you have that time between 3:30 and 6 to make sure that you're in the stadium so that you do avoid traffic congestion. We know with our deployment, we have planned a deployment for full capacity. If it does happen, and with that it's 120 officers who are on duty with the command structures as well, and we'll be looking at 46 critical points around the stadium precinct and surroundings. With the road closures specifically, when they are going to be implemented, it will be on Soweto Highway, that's between Men's Street in Boysens and the N1, and of course on Boysens Reserve as well. And also looking into at critical areas like on Nasrec Road, but not completely. That will be between Rancho Road, between Recreation Road and Shaft 17, and with Nasrec Road then being converted into contra traffic flow. It will allow more vehicles coming into the stadium before and leaving the stadium after the game. And of course, one thing that we have realized as well is that most of our soccer spectators are using public transport and taxis for one. And then we'll be working closely with the taxi associations to ensure that when the spectators do leave the stadium, it is free flowing. Then rather than having taxis squashing themselves into the stadium precinct after the game and causing more congestion, 3 areas have been identified for them to park, and I'll make it easier for spectators walking out of the stadium and for them to access these public transport. These areas are, of course, on Soweto Highway, which is on the northern side of the stadium facing the Johannesburg CBD. And on Rancho Road, it's right on Golden Highway. So when you walk out from Stadium Road and onto Golden Highway, work straight up to Rancho Road. That's where you find your taxis. And of course, right next to the Shell Garage, which is at Rancho Road and Aerodrome Road. We are advising our spectators. I think this is important. I think we have said it before, and we'll continue to say it again, is that please arrive as early as possible to avoid that congestion before the game. And also, when we do leave the stadium, then of course we can't avoid that congestion, and that's why we'll have our officers who will be on site. And roads that will be affected within the stadium precinct, of course, is the N17 in the Riverlea area, Nasrec Road, traveling between Riverlea and Amonde View, Rancho Road, and the surrounding roads, which is Aerodrome Road and Adcock Ingram Road. And people who aren't coming to the stadium can then use Adcock Ingram and Aerodrome Road as an alternative. And you can also use Main Reef Road as an alternative as well. Thank you.
Thank you. We're open for questions from the floor once you've given your input as well to both of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tandi, and good morning to all, and specifically members of the media. Tandi, you must stop me if I go on too long, but I think it's prudent that we address some of the specifically access control measures today, and I'm going to try and keep it as brief as possible and to the point. Ladies and gentlemen, we were confronted over the last, and all of you have seen that, and all of you have reported on that at some point in time. We've been confronted with overcrowding at venues and people gaining access to the venues that's not legitimate ticket holders. The issue created with that is in a capacity event overcrowding, and the next thing is once you reach capacity, it led to legitimate ticket holders being left outside the venue. Now, we either had to work with what was currently in place and try and improve it, or we had to implement a change. Now, the major change with access control going forward, and we started about a month ago, is the activation of the turnstiles. Why is that of such an important and significant a point to raise here? A turnstile is a physical barrier that's not operated manually. It operates digitally and automatically when verifying a legitimate ticket to grant the holder of legitimate ticket access through that turnstiles. Previously, we had a double scanning system at FNB Stadium where your ticket was verified and then you scanned the outer perimeter with mobile scanning devices, and that led you directly into the venue. The turnstiles were on free flow and you had access into the venue. That led to, and I think that contributed to where we are at the moment. There's unfortunately a group of spectators and some individuals that's exploiting the system. They wait for congestion, they wait for a couple of minutes before kickoff, and they breach this outer perimeter validation point, and they gain access to the venue. Again, there, no matter what measures you put in place, it's impossible during peak hour when the congestion is at its highest to 100% secure this layer of security and access control. We therefore decided that as a collective in the ESSPC and in terms of SASRIA, we're going to have this final layer where you need to gain access via the turnstiles. Now, if we stop people at the turnstiles from gaining access to the venue, it needs no further explanation that those that breach that outer perimeter is now on the turnstiles. And that's going to create a problem on its own. Now, for the sake of understanding the process, there's three layers to access control into the venue. The one is the physical ticketing platform. The next one associated with that platform is the ticket verification, the scanning devices, the connectivity, and all of that. The second major point is crowd management. Now that is channeling crowds to different turnstiles, the chutes where they scan, the security deployment. The third one is crowd control. Once crowd management fails and you have a breach, what happens then? And in terms of legislation, it's only the South African Police Services and specifically POPs that can do crowd control. In my example now, when people break through and they're at the turnstiles and they try and gain access through the turnstiles by either pushing open the emergency gates or trying to go through the turnstiles more than one person at a time, that is where SAPS and POPs needs to assist us. Now, there's a collaborative plan and an extensive plan where we've married these aspects. Ticketing platform, ticketing verification, crowd management, and crowd control. If I can give you some background, historically, and we've had this tested, it's not thumbs up. With previous capacity events, the hour before kickoff, we still need to load 51,000 people into the venue. Historically, half an hour before kickoff, we still need to load 34,000 people into the venue. So as far as crowd management is concerned, we decided to increase the number of validation points and open all the turnstiles to the venue. So the number of first scanning validation points is 120. The turnstiles that would be open for this fixture is 136. Now, if I divide that into the 51,000 we still need to load, that gives you 357 people per turnstile in an hour. It's more than half less the international norm to load people through a turnstile. That gives you 9 seconds per person to get through the turnstile. But if you've got somebody there at the turnstile, there to create chaos, there to create congestion, there to create animosity between patrons and the security personnel, he's going to delay that 9 seconds to a minute. And you can just think what's the rollout of that and the impact of that on the actual loading of people. We want to create an atmosphere and experience where the legitimate ticket holder has safe access, and that it's never going to be like walking down the road if you try to get people inside the venue through 136 turnstiles. But at least that there's not a congestion. What can we as a venue do? We need to ensure that the scanning devices are fully functional. I've reported it previously that we've made a decision and we've implemented access points and fiber lines, not to be reliant on Wi-Fi. So all devices are going to be connected to Wi-Fi. We need to look at the time frame and the milliseconds it takes to scan the tickets. We need to have a server on site with redundancy. We've put all of those measures in place. Can I sit here and say it will be 100% functional? I can't. We need to have mitigation measures in place and contingency plans in place that I believe we do have. But the major factor is the behavior of the crowd. Unfortunately, their behavior is sometimes dictated by the circumstances. And I foresee a problem, as Kulani highlighted, with people traveling from Pretoria. We're going to have congestion just before kickoff. We're going to do our utmost via the platform, the verification system, the crowd management and the crowd control to ensure safe and secure access to the venue. But as we sit here, we can't continue as we did in the past. And I've said it on a number of occasions as well. With change comes a bit of argy-bargy, there's a bit of unhappiness, but we need to push through this as a collective from an event organizer's perspective, from the club, from the broader ESSPC. Otherwise, we're going to have problems. Another interesting fact, and I'm going to close with that, we've also, with the assistance of crime intelligence, infiltrated some of these networks, selling fake tickets and the syndicates. You'll be amazed that some of the individuals that we got hold of and that testified to us, they sell at the capacity event 3,000 fake tickets. I'm not referring to fake tickets sold the day before or the day after. One individual selling 3,000 fake tickets. So we confronted with a plague that we need to eradicate. And I hope that this process, and I hope that we've got the cooperation of all involved by enforcing mechanical access control to the venue, that this is the first step to ensure that. I'm more than willing to take questions later on, but that as an intro from my side.
Thank you. Maybe just starting with the questions, I'll ask two questions, one question each from our platforms, starting with you, Bertie, because you just finished now addressing your address now. We have seasonal ticket holders. Maybe if you can just elaborate on the seasonal ticket holders for London Stadium, if they'll be able to access the venue this Wednesday with those seasonal tickets. And I appreciate the detailed briefing on ticketing, but also I think for these type of events, perhaps if you can just elaborate what's the most difficult thing about organizing these type of events, and what would you like to say to the public, to the patrons that are coming through on Wednesday, in order just to make this easy, understanding that there's been plans from the ESSPC and NN, but to the general public to cooperate and make this an eventless match in terms of any challenges with egress, ingress, and safety and security of the event.
Thanks, Tony. On your first question, season ticket holders, because this is Orlando Pirates' home fixture, although it's played at F&B Stadium, the club's alternative venue, the season tickets will be valid, and you'll be able to utilize your season ticket. Through the course of today and tomorrow, all season ticket holders will receive a call from the ticketing agent, and your tickets will be transferred to you, and they will assist you to create your profile, and you will get your ticket. There's a dedicated access for season ticket holders, and that's via gate C at the venue, where it will be smooth and easy for them to access. So please use your season ticket that you purchased for the season. What makes it difficult, I want to make use of the opportunity to plead to the public and the ticket holders. Make sure when you arrive at the venue that you've got, when you close to the scanning points, remember there's 2 points, a validation point where you're going to get scanned and the turnstiles, that you've got your ticket in hand, if it's a physical ticket. If not, if it's a digital ticket, open it, that the barcode is visible, that you don't get to the turnstile and use 8 seconds of the 9 seconds to get into put in your passcode, get into your ticket, open it, that you be ready when you approach the turnstiles, ready for scanning of your ticket. Please also remember that it's a double scanning. So if you pass the first validation point, don't throw away your ticket or give it to somebody else that you think will gain access. You still need to get past the turnstiles. We've also, one of the lessons we've learned, we're going to have charging stations available for people whose phones run flat. So at the verification points, there will be charging stations. And we've created 2 mobile hotspots at the verification points if you've got problems with accessing your platform. It's not needed if you've downloaded the ticket, but for those instances that you require, we'll create 2 free Wi-Fi hotspots. Thank you. Not answering your question in detail, but I think it's important that I use that.
No, I'm happy with your response. Thank you, sir. And maybe to certain people as well, from your perspective, why are these events different from your normal organized events? What would you like to say in terms of just traffic management and people obeying the rules? I know there'll be tow trucks, there'll be designated parking areas, and that type of information which would be key for the patrons coming through in match day.
Thank you once again, Thandi. What I'd say will be different with this game. Usually at the F&B games are played during the weekend with the type of magnitude of the game. This is a midweek game. It is a night game. It is different. The planning had to be different. We know that from the previous game, we did see heavy congestion with a lot of complaints, not only from spectators who couldn't access the stadium in time, but also from our residents as well. And that's why we had to shift the road closures to 6 o'clock, and that's to allow people to move the way around the stadium. And as Bertie did mention, it's a person coming from Pretoria, so at least if you are knocking off at 4 o'clock or 4:30, at least the latest is 6 o'clock when these road closures are then implemented, you are already in the stadium precinct. But one thing I should remind people, and one thing that has been considered with the road closure being moved at 6 o'clock, is that people will take advantage of the open roads and park illegally. JNP officers will be on duty. If you are parked illegally or parking causing obstruction, your vehicles will then be impounded. So it's important that you do adhere to all the rules of the road. All the instructions of the officers will be on ground will then be able to assist members of the public and spectators to navigate around the stadium precinct. And also parking will be available within the stadium precinct, so there won't be a need for you to park on the roadway. And lastly, but most important, and we'll always keep on reiterating this, please arrive to the stadium as early as possible to avoid any congestions coming to the game. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think just to kick it off from my part, with the confirmation of the pre-match activities, the activations, as well as entertainment that we have organized for this fixture, there will be activations which will be consistent of prizes, prize giveaways, and the like. And there will also be the Pirates shop which will be selling club apparel, Vodacom, Aquele, and from the stadium management, Robertson's and Tripac, that will be part of the activations. In terms of entertainment, we'll have live entertainment. There'll be a pre-match act as well as a halftime act. The main act would be Malemon, and there would be Kabuti as the opening act for the day. Thank you. Are there any questions for Representative? Yeah. Yes. Wait for the microphone, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a brief one directed to Mr. Krogler. So, how many tickets have been sold so far for this match?
So thank you. Maybe I should have opened with that. Just before we came down to sit, 31,000 tickets sold. So it's not strange for the Pirates fixtures over the last couple of months. There's not a lot sold in the days leading up, but 2 days before the event, and I think the fixtures over the weekend, people focused and concentrated on that. So we expect at least a crowd of 60,000 at least.
And songs ESPN Africa. Sergeant Fickler, we heard from Mr. Krogler a moment ago about the syndicates that are selling fake tickets. Are you able to confirm if there's any link between them and broader organized crime networks that are committing other sorts of criminal activity?
That would be the competency of crime intelligence within the South African Police Services, but definitely as the JMPD with our specialized units like the K9 and the Tactical Response Unit, we'll be working closely with the South African Police Services, so if that is encountered, make sure that we do respond as quickly as possible, and any information that we do receive will be shared within the intelligence community, and that the syndicates are brought to book.
Do you have any further questions?
Themba Joseph from Sports. Pep, this one comes to you. I mean, most of the concerns and the complaints is about the beverages that are not allowed into the stadium, because you find that snacks, are not allowed into stadiums, and you find people would be concerned about on such a big match. I mean, people would buy that packet of snack outside, only to find that the kid cannot take it inside. Are there any items that are not allowed into the stadium? Can you just give us a list?
It's quite an extensive list from prohibited items, but let's deal with the food and beverage quickly. And that's not solely a stadium or a venue related prohibition based on commercials and selling of stuff inside. It's also related to environmental health, and we've all seen over the last couple of months the issues we've had with food poisoning, and I've heard in a meeting with environmental health the other day, it's actually not food poisoning, it's chemical poisoning that occurs. So that's part of the reason for that. Everything that gets loaded into the venue and gets sold to patrons and spectators are checked by environmental health, and that is the main reason that it is not allowed.
We'll take the final 3 questions.
Kopeto Makali from Popular Radio. My question to Mr. Fickler, first one, and Mr. Abla as well. My question for you, Mr. Fickler, perhaps can you tell us if previous experience, do we have numbers of people who have been arrested and the number of convictions that we have seen, based whether it's parking on the side of the road or for the disruptions into the stadium. Do you have like numbers for us? And to Bertie as well, I just want to ask, previously when this fixture was at FNB Stadium, we saw one team using the alternative like tunnel and not the main one. Do we have a similar incident, or is there a similar plan for the same game, or will both teams be walking down the same aisle?
Yes, when it comes to arrests, unfortunately, they are handed over to the South African Police Services, who then have the competency of investigating cases and then bringing up convictions. So we wouldn't have the exact numbers for that, but I can tell you that previously people have been arrested for either driving under the influence of alcohol, that's by the JMPD, and for traffic offences. Unfortunately, we can't arrest people, but what we can do is issue fines. And above that, we can also impound vehicles for illegal parking. Numerous vehicles have been impounded around the FNB Stadium for that. And secondly, it is a warning that if you do park your vehicles in a non-secure area, then that your vehicle might be impounded or then be vandalized or damaged. So that's why it is important for people to be parking at places which are secured and which are designated for parking.
Thank you. Before I respond to your question, I would just want to link on to the answer given here. And I hope this question gets asked not related to traffic as such, but to other offences in terms of SASRIA at each and every press conference. I don't know of one conviction in all the time I've been at stadium management for contravention of SASRIA. And if we don't start doing that, there's no deterrent. If a pitch invader gets a rap on the knuckles on the Monday that he was just having fun, fake ticket sellers doesn't get exposed, we're going to sit with this problem forever. And I think as media, you've got the power to ask those questions. As far as your question to me is concerned, you want to get me into trouble now. That is a matter between the clubs, but I can confirm that the clubs with Kaizer Chiefs that's also involved in this reached an agreement, and the change rooms closer to the tunnel will be used and not an alternative change room.
Final question? Any takers? Going once, going twice? On that note, I think we've reached the conclusion of our logistics briefing and traffic management. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time and participation. Thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
resume at 12 with head coach and captain of the club. Thank you.